The rain had soaked every inch of the tiny front porch by the time the black luxury sedan rolled to a stop outside the weathered little house, but nothing could have prepared the neighbors for what happened next. A billionaire CEO stepped out without an umbrella, walked through the pouring rain, knocked on the faded blue door of a struggling single father, and when he opened it with grease still staining his hands from repairing an old lawn mower, she looked into his tired eyes and whispered the most unbelievable sentence either of them would ever hear. She said she needed a husband by Friday. In that impossible moment, neither of them knew that the strange request would uncover years of hidden pain, restore broken families, and prove that sometimes the greatest miracles arrive disguised as impossible choices. If you believe kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances still have the power to change lives, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to our channel to become part of our growing family. Colton Mercer had once imagined a much different future. Before life humbled him, he had dreamed of owning the largest automotive restoration business in the county. Instead, he now worked from a small detached garage behind his modest house, fixing lawn equipment, family sedans, and anything with an engine that desperate customers could afford to repair. Every dollar mattered because every dollar helped raise his 8-year-old daughter, Hazel, whose bright smile somehow survived every hardship they faced together. 3 years earlier, Colton had buried his wife after a sudden illness emptied every savings account they owned. Since then, he had become both father and mother, learning to braid hair badly, pack school lunches creatively, and hide his own tears whenever Hazel asked whether life would ever become easier. She never complained. She simply hugged him every morning before school and reminded him that they still had each other. Across the city, Corinne Ashford appeared to have everything money could buy. At only 38, she had transformed her family's engineering company into one of the fastest-growing manufacturing firms in the country. Financial magazines admired her discipline. Investors praised her intelligence. Employees respected her fairness. Yet behind every polished interview and confident business speech was a lonely woman carrying impossible pressure. Her late grandfather had built the company from nothing, and the trust protecting the business contained one unusual condition. If the family leadership remained unmarried after a specific inheritance deadline, voting control would immediately transfer to a distant board appointed by outside investors. Corinne had ignored the clause for years because work always came first. Now, after several legal delays, she had only 5 days before losing the company her grandfather had sacrificed his life to build. Her advisors proposed fake engagements, expensive publicity stunts, and questionable legal loopholes. None survived scrutiny. The company attorneys insisted that only a legitimate civil marriage completed before Friday would satisfy the trust. Every relationship Corinne had ever attempted had collapsed because people wanted her fortune instead of her heart. She refused to marry another wealthy executive who viewed marriage as another corporate merger. Days earlier, while visiting a community center her company quietly funded, Corinne noticed a framed photograph honoring local volunteers after severe flooding the previous year. One face caught her attention. It belonged to a mechanic named Colton Mercer, who had spent 3 straight days repairing emergency vehicles without charging a single cent while refusing every television interview offered afterward. Curious, Corinne asked around. Everyone described the same man. Honest. Humble. Proud. Devoted to his daughter. Someone even joked that if goodness could be measured, Colton would bankrupt everyone else. That reputation led her to the rain-soaked doorstep. Colton stared in stunned silence as Corinne explained everything with remarkable honesty. She did not offer romance. She did not pretend love existed. She simply admitted that she needed someone she could trust, someone who would never exploit her, someone willing to help protect thousands of employees whose livelihoods depended on keeping the company stable until she could restructure the trust legally. In return, she promised financial security for Hazel, complete transparency, and the freedom to end the marriage once the legal crisis passed if they both agreed. Colton almost laughed at the absurdity. It sounded like something from a movie, not real life. Yet as he watched Corinne standing in the rain, soaked despite owning unimaginable wealth, he recognized exhaustion that looked strangely familiar. It was the same exhaustion he saw in his own reflection every morning. The weight of responsibility. The fear of failing people who depended on you. He invited her inside. Hazel quietly colored at the kitchen table while the adults spoke. Unlike most children, she noticed emotions before words. She watched Corinne carefully before walking over with a towel and offering it without being asked. Corinne accepted it with genuine gratitude. The simple kindness nearly broke her composure because no one had offered her comfort without expecting something in return for years. Over the next several hours, lawyers explained every legal detail while Colton insisted on reading every page himself. He demanded one unusual condition before signing anything. Hazel would always come first. If the arrangement ever harmed his daughter emotionally, everything would end immediately regardless of financial consequences. Corinne agreed without hesitation. Friday arrived beneath bright afternoon skies after the rain had finally disappeared. The civil ceremony was small, quiet, and witnessed only by attorneys, a retired family friend, and Hazel wearing a simple yellow dress that she insisted made everyone look happier. Newspapers quickly exploded with headlines questioning why one of the nation's wealthiest CEOs had married an unknown mechanic. Television commentators invented outrageous theories. Social media mocked Colton as another fortune hunter. None of them knew that Colton refused every luxury offered beyond what Hazel genuinely needed. He continued repairing cars in his old garage because honest work reminded him who he was. Every afternoon after school, Hazel still finished homework beside his workbench before they drove to Corinne's estate for dinner. Slowly, what began as an agreement developed into something far more meaningful. Corinne discovered that wealth had quietly isolated her from ordinary life. She had forgotten how comforting homemade soup tasted. She had never helped a child build a birdhouse or watched cartoons simply because someone else enjoyed them. Hazel changed that. She filled enormous empty rooms with laughter, scattered art supplies across expensive tables, and convinced Corinne that business meetings could wait while paper airplanes deserved immediate attention. Colton noticed another side of Corinne that the world never saw. Every decision she made weighed heavily because thousands of families depended on her company. She secretly reviewed employee hardship requests personally, approved scholarships anonymously, and visited injured workers without allowing photographers nearby. She was not cold. She was simply lonely. As weeks became months, the arrangement faced its greatest challenge. A rival executive named Preston Vaughn wanted control of Ashford Industries. Unable to manipulate Corinne directly, he hired investigators hoping to expose the marriage as fraudulent. They photographed Colton entering his humble garage instead of enjoying luxury, twisted ordinary interactions into scandalous headlines, and convinced several investors that the CEO had become emotionally unstable. The company's stock dropped sharply, board members panicked, commentators laughed harder than ever. Colton blamed himself, believing he had become a burden. He quietly packed his belongings one afternoon while Hazel attended school. He intended to disappear before causing more damage. As he loaded worn suitcases into his pickup truck, Corinne returned unexpectedly from an emergency meeting. For the first time since they met, genuine fear crossed her face. She realized the possibility of losing Colton hurt far more than losing board votes ever had. She stopped him before he left. Neither spoke for several long moments. Then Corinne admitted the truth she had hidden even from herself. Somewhere between shared breakfasts, helping Hazel with science projects, celebrating repaired bicycles instead of expensive gifts, and watching Colton treat every struggling customer with quiet dignity, the legal arrangement had transformed into a real family. She no longer needed a husband because of a trust agreement. She needed the man who reminded her every day that success meant nothing without people to share it with. Colton confessed he had fallen in love too, but believed someone like her deserved far better than a struggling mechanic with calloused hands and unpaid memories. Corinne smiled through tears because those hands had built more honesty than all the polished boardrooms she had ever entered. Instead of hiding, they decided to face the accusations together. During the annual shareholder meeting, everyone expected carefully rehearsed legal defenses. Instead, Corinne invited Colton onto the stage beside her. He spoke without prepared notes. He described fixing broken engines because every machine deserved another chance before being discarded. Then he quietly compared machines to people, explaining that the strongest things in life are often the ones repaired after breaking. He admitted he had never wanted wealth. He simply wanted his daughter to grow up believing character mattered more than status. The room fell completely silent, employees stood first, then investors, finally, even skeptical board members applauded. Preston's investigation collapsed when independent auditors confirmed the marriage had never violated any legal requirements. More importantly, employees publicly defended the couple after witnessing months of genuine compassion inside the company. Investors regained confidence not because of financial reports alone but because authentic leadership had become impossible to ignore. Months later, Colton transformed his little garage into a non-profit training center funded jointly by the company and local businesses. Young adults aging out of foster care learned mechanical skills, financial responsibility, and confidence. Corinne expanded company scholarships, ensuring graduates always had opportunities waiting. Hazel remained the heart connecting everyone. She proudly introduced Corinne as her mother, though no paperwork had ever required those words. One sunny afternoon, she placed the faded towel from that rainy first meeting into a small memory box. She said it reminded her that sometimes people arrived looking soaked on the outside because they had been carrying storms inside for far too long. Years passed, and reporters occasionally asked Corinne what the smartest business decision of her career had been. They expected discussions about acquisitions or market strategies. She always smiled before answering that the greatest investment she had ever made was knocking on the wrong-looking door at exactly the right moment. The richest return had never appeared on a financial statement. It appeared every morning at the breakfast table, where laughter replaced loneliness and ordinary moments became life's greatest luxury. Before this story comes to an end, leave a meaningful comment and tell us what touched your heart the most. Do you believe that true character is more valuable than money, status, or appearances? Your thoughts may encourage someone who needs hope today. As warm afternoon sunlight poured across the front porch where everything had begun, the blue door that once opened to uncertainty now opened to a home filled with love, healing, and purpose. The rain that introduced strangers had long disappeared, but the compassion born that day remained. Colton no longer believed his dreams had died with hardship. Corinne no longer believed success required loneliness. Hazel grew up knowing families are not built by contracts or fortunes but by everyday acts of kindness, sacrifice, forgiveness, and unwavering love. Their extraordinary beginning proved that life's greatest blessings often arrive wearing the disguise of impossible circumstances, and the courage to trust another human heart can rewrite even the saddest story into one overflowing with hope. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey.